Today we're going to be testing the limits of the human body. The limits of human endurance as a whole. To boredom, that is, because I'm going to be painting 177 minis in 16 hours. This video is a response to all of you challenging me to try and paint 141 miniatures in 72 hours, and I just thought I might up that ante a tiny bit. This whole thing started when My Mini Factory, the sponsor of this video, said they wanted to provide the minis for a painting challenge. So they had Shop3D.io, their official partner, 3D print and send out a majority of the fantastic Plants Rocks Vol.2 crowdfunding campaign, which, by the way, I'll have a discount code for you later in this video to use. They sent me a total of 83 minis from the core set of that campaign, which BT Dubs is exclusive to the MMF site, and said, let's see how fast you can paint these. I've already done a review of these minis in another video, so if you want to learn about those, I'll go ahead and put that up in the top right, but for now, let's just get started on the actual challenge. First up, I need to prime all of these minis, and because I'm going to be using contrast paints, I'm going to prime them white. I'm also going to prime using a spray paint can, because that works for me, as it does for many other people. When the other big dogs of YouTube mini painting do things, they use an air gun to do their painting. I don't have the skills to do that, and since that's their way to speed things up, my way to speed it up is contrast paints. I think we're going to call it even. But while I was priming those minis, they sent me out a whole nother box, over doubling my total, meaning I now had a total of 177 minis and a maximum of 24 hours worth of work to paint them all in. And so, game on. I got all of my equipment ready and all of my paints in a rainbow color order, so I didn't have to fiddle around with finding whatever paint I wanted. It would just be ready to go. And I made sure I had plenty of entertainment for while I painted. So let's take a look at all of the different things that we're going to be painting today. We've got different groups of poisonous swamp mushrooms, your reef stones, War of the Worlds stones, toxic alien pines, prickly tall grass. We also have alien bulbs, Martian cliffs, Venusian corals, druidic giant pebbles, marshy dead trees, underwater stone caves, buried elder things dwellings, pirate palm trees, fairy mushrooms, giant pumpkins, Necron stalagmites, curious grassy rocks, and I'm beginning to feel like a rap god. Let's take the rings off because this is going to be a long one. I got my first paints that I was going to use and I was ready to go. Now, I let my primer paint coat dry before I began and started the timer. You might think that's cheating, but I don't, because I really could have started painting after only half an hour of having the primer coat on there, and I'm going to finish well before the 16-hour mark. So I don't think it's cheating, but I respect it if you do think that is. And as an omen of things to come, the very first thing I do was drop my paint. Not a big deal, we'll just treat that like breaking a glass on the first night of a restaurant's opening. I'm going to start with Glyph Charger Gray because it's definitely my favorite look for stone. And just painting on this one set here, it took me 8 minutes to finish a really easy paint. I realized pretty early on that I was going to have to speed the things up if I was going to get this done. Based on how many minis I had and the time limit I imposed on myself, I was going to have to finish a mini every 8.14 minutes. A fully completed mini every 8.14 minutes. That's a Herculean task for me. I'm a slow goer. Now, my initial way to tackle this was trying to do all I needed for one color across every mini. So everything that I thought I was going to need Glyph Charger Gray on, just go ahead and paint that. Honestly, I don't think that's the best technique when you're working for this long. You just want to work on whatever's the most fun because it keeps you the most interested. If I was working on something boring too long, I'd swap it up. That way my focus was razor sharp the whole time. After I finished with the Glyph Charger Gray, an hour and 8 minutes had passed, and I felt like that was pretty good, and so I started moving on to something that I thought would be kind of fun to try. I started trying to tackle one of the prickly little bushes by making a black stone bottom and then covering all of the bush parts with Dark Angel's green. I put way too much paint on there because I was trying to do this all at once without letting any of the paint dry, and so a huge glob of paint just fell off and completely coated my desk, and now everything is green and I'm doing fine. I decided to hold off on the little bushes because I was going to try something else later, and I used some warp lightning on this grass piece here because I thought I could get a lot of it done and feel very rewarded. Then I moved on to the pumpkins. I hate doing these pumpkins because they're so detailed. I even hated it while I was painting them. You can hear me complain.
I don't like painting these pumpkins.
The pumpkins were great. I just have shaky hands, and so I was getting paint in places that I really didn't want paint, and it was frustrating. So after I finished the orange part of the pumpkin, I decided to reward myself with the corals. The corals are amazing because they have so many different colors, or at least the way I wanted to paint them, that I could just feel rewarded every 5 minutes because I would complete something and move on to a brand new thing and a brand new color. I highly recommend doing a ton of colors if you're doing a challenge like this. After I was finished with those, I was 3 hours and 12 minutes in, which is probably the longest I've ever sat down and painted something in a single sitting. But you get to watch me immediately double that because what you're watching right now is a single shot of a 3-hour time lapse. 3 hours. That puts me at 6 hours total in. I think it's worth mentioning as well that I'm not doing this within a 24-hour period. I'm doing it within 48 hours. I didn't see any point in trying to do it all within exactly 24 hours besides making myself sleep deprived. And I'm already sleep deprived. I don't need to make myself more cranky. Right when I finished painting this bit of grass up under these druid pebbles, this change in shots here signifies day 2. I did 6 hours on the first day and 10 hours on the second day of painting. Another thing I did to make this more fun for me was I avoided looking at the crowdfunding page because they had painted versions of these minis already on there, and I thought that that would be cheap and not fun to just follow instructions for 24 hours. I wanted to do it my way, and that made some things look really awesome, and some things I totally apologize to the Print Your Monsters people because I definitely ruined their vision. I didn't realize it when I started, but the tiny detail portion of painting is what really took the wind out of my sails. Not that I didn't like doing that, but every time I messed up, it was like a punch in the gut. Like, oh man, people are gonna see this on camera, and I feel really bad because I'm not as good a painter as all of the other big people on YouTube. And I'm already using cheap things like contrast paints compared to all the professional ways they do things. And then while I was thinking all of that in my head, my memory card got corrupted and I lost a solid 2 hours of footage. Yay. But after I reformatted my memory card, I got right back to work, even doing the part I hated most because I knew if it got much later, I was definitely not going to want to do all of the vines on this pumpkin work. Again, every time I messed up painting those vines, punch right in the gut. But then I got my second wind because I thought of something that made me extremely happy. I could set all of these minis up to where I only had to paint one thing on each set, and then I could finish like 6 sets all in maybe an hour or so. So with that, my train arrived at Motivation Station and I was ready to go for a few more hours. In my head, I estimated I had about 8 hours left of painting, but in reality, I was going to finish in about 5 or 6 hours at this point. Maybe it's because on some of them, I decided to go with only 1 or 2 paint colors for the bottom, like on these fairy mushrooms here. I just went over it with plague bearer flesh and then brown on some of the parts that I thought needed it. But hey, I think that it looks good and I'm pretty happy with it. Also, during this next time lapse, I figured I'd mention that if you want to back this My Manufacturer exclusive crowdfunding campaign, here's a 5% discount code to use on their site. I don't get any money from you using that link, but it's a discount, so I figured I'd share it with you. Also, on a cool note, the campaign passed their $120,000 mark as of the time of me editing this video, so MMF is releasing their new resin product to backers of this campaign, so that's pretty neat. All of the minis that were printed in this video were made with that resin. Now, finally, the last set for me to finish painting is the underwater stone cave set. I intentionally left a lot of it blank because I was going to do so many colors on it. I wanted to have one final hurrah, and it was going to be a lot of fun. But even then, you can hear my relief once I finally finished all of it.
It's over. It's done.
I finished right at the 15-hour mark in 9 minutes.
Boom.
And that's my victory cry. I was a defeated man who was tired of painting, but honestly, the next day I came out and took a look at everything, and I was super proud of what I had done. I had never painted for that long, and this is probably 10 times as many minis as I have painted in my entire life. I'm even super proud of how the giant pumpkins turned out. I decided to give them a black base, which was a really good idea for covering up all of the messes I made due to being tired on the vines. The pirate palm trees, I didn't get as much filming as I wanted on those, but heck, I even did all the super details like the coconuts under the leaves. You're not going to see those unless the tree falls over, which they shouldn't. They're trees, but I still like that the detail is there. Also, this is an example of where I did not necessarily follow the rules. These are called toxic alien pines. They're supposed to be green. I made them blue. I like them looking blue. Same thing with the druidic giant pebbles. They're supposed to be more of a brown rock, but I like this kind of bluish rock look that Glyph Charger Gray gives me. But then again, some of them I just happened to make pretty much identical to what they wanted to do. Like this Prickly Tall Grass had really light green at the top and dark green at the bottom. I guess I nailed it because that's how they painted theirs. Their Buried Elder Things dwellings is also pretty much all brown. I had a different color sand on the bottom than the actual dwellings or the shell-like thing, and the Necron stalagmites were also kind of this icy blue. I guess great minds stalagmite think alike sometimes. I don't know, that's kind of reaching. I will have to say though, the War of the Worlds stone might be my favorite out of all of these. I really like how that bright red pops on that bluish gray stone. Super happy with how those turned out, and I may actually make and print some more of those and make a whole setting with this kind of red fungus taking over the world or something. The Venusian corals are supposed to be this evil looking red, but mine look a little bit more Finding Nemo, and I think that's good because I didn't really get many water sets out of this, and they definitely had one that was supposed to be water that I did not make water at all, and I'll show you that one in just a moment. The poisonous swamp mushrooms I think look okay. The bases could have been a lot better, but I was trying to get this kind of greenish fleshy look to them, like they're in this horrible poisonous swamp. I don't know, I still like them. The curious grassy rocks are not my favorite of all of the models, but that's because I don't have an airbrush to have a nice transition between light green at the top and dark green at the bottom. For the Martian cliffs, I actually prefer my version. It looks like this different colored stone is jetting out from inside a mountain, like tectonic plates have been moving. I don't know, I just really like it. And as far as one that's actually supposed to be made like a water set, these reef stones in retrospect definitely were made to have the bases be water. I thought it was sand, and so I kind of made this like an obelisk in the sand. Definitely not supposed to be that way. I recommend you put watery blue at the bottom and not dark gray and brown sand. The underwater stone caves more than make up for it, and I made those have a watery bottom even though they are not supposed to, so I just kind of mixed those two up, but I still like how both of them turned out for me. Of the sets that I did, the one I was least proud of, or the one that I would have changed, would have definitely been the marshy dead trees. I like how the trees look, but the base I don't like at all. After I've seen how they've done things, it gives me a better idea, but I just had no idea going into this. It could be because it was one of the last sets I did and I just ran entirely out of brain power, so maybe I'll try and redo those sometimes. The fairy mushrooms turned out really good, especially after I put kind of a fleshy brown on the top of the lower mushrooms and kind of connected the yellow to the brown. Really like how those turned out. And then the alien bulbs look really good as well. However, when I was painting them, I wish I just hadn't painted the purple part at all and left it red and white. For some reason, that color combo really popped to me, and I wish I had just left it. All in all, I had a lot of fun doing this, way more than I expected, and I would definitely do it again for some sort of 24-hour charity stream sometime. For this video, however, I decided to do something that I think you'll all really like. Since I was given twice as many minis as I had planned to receive, and absolutely smashed my goal of 24 hours to paint them all, I'm just gonna give half of them away. I'll be given 85 of these minis that I just painted, so 5 from each set, to a winner that will receive a huge bundle of what is now pre-painted minis. So if you want to enter to win, check the link in the description of this video. The giveaway will be live for 1 week after this video airs, so be sure to enter as soon as possible. With that, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you might want to see some more videos like this in the future, or if you want to learn how to do some more tabletop DIY stuff, because that's predominantly what we do here on my channel. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, and let me know in the comments down below if there's any other challenges you might think I should take on in the future. Thank you again for your time and watching my video today. I hope that you all have a fantastic day.